Hey, I'm Fred.
And I'm Ant.
And this is Creator Generation.
Create a generation of hype.
All right, Frederico, what is happening this week?
This week we're chatting with Nick Nimmin from the channel Nick Nimmin.
Instead of thinking, how do I get more subscribers? You should be thinking, how can I add more value to the people that are watching my videos?
Now, Nick is a guru on YouTube and teaches people how to use YouTube properly. And he teaches people how to use YouTube like a pro.
Just a quick note, this is a cut down version of this interview. If you want to check out the whole podcast, head on over to your favorite podcast platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you can check it out there.
Let's get into it.
Welcome to Creator Generation. This week we have Nick Nimmin joining us. Nick, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, excited to talk about YouTube. As always, love YouTube. It's an amazing platform. We have an awesome opportunity as content creators to be able to put our stuff out there. So super pumped to, talk to you guys today.
Fred, we're going to have to bring the energy today.
I know. That's pretty, it's pretty impressive.
I can turn it down a little bit if you'd like.
Do you, man. You got to do you.
I feel inadequate.
G up, Fred. G up. Hey, Nick, who are you? Who are you and what do you do? Because I've stopped doing that introduction piece many episodes ago because I made a fistful of it. So please tell us who are you and what do you do?
So I'm Nick. I teach people how to grow YouTube channels, make videos, and all types of other YouTube and video related topics. At the core of all of that, though, I'm also a content creator in terms of I just love making stuff. So because I love making stuff, that also gives me the opportunity to, be in the shoes of the people that I'm trying to help with the content that I make. And it allows me to kind of flex my creative muscle in terms of just always being in the process of, just making stuff.
You hear that all the time. Like people are like, oh, even if they're not getting anywhere with their YouTube channel, people are like, I just love YouTube and creating YouTube content. Like what the hell's going on there? Like why? What do you like for yourself, but also all these other creators out there that are sort of what do you think is the love that comes with it?
For me, I think that it's the idea of being able to make something. And then, you put your time and effort and you think it's cool. You're like, you know what? I think people are really going to like this. And then you publish it. And then when you publish it, even if it's 3 comments, right? 3 comments come in and they're like, hey, this is a great video, or, hey, this was awesome, or whatever it happens to be. Just that little bit of feedback just starts kind of solidifying that feeling of hey, sweet. I'm making something and people are enjoying what it is that I'm making, or I'm getting positive feedback from that. And I think that, just as humans, we get dopamine hits from that. And it's kind of like hey, I'm getting approval from, these random people on the internet. And I think that the creation process by itself is also extremely liberating. It's the same reason people, paint, and the same reason people make music that nobody will ever hear. The same reason that people, will, write, journals and things like that they have a connection of some type to, even though people might not ever see it. It's just that vice, or I don't know if vice is the right word, but it's just that process of letting all of that creativity and all of, just on the brain dump, so to speak, of, letting that creativity, out of your brain.
What about creators who don't create around passion? They just create around because they just think it's a good idea or think it's popular?
With that, I think that they get sucked into it, because I think that once you do start getting that feedback, I think that, it's that same type of thing starts to happen to where, even if you create because it's popular, but it's not something to where you're passionate about it, I think that you can quickly get passionate about it as soon as you start getting that positive feedback. Okay, let's put this into another reference. Okay, so let's say you go shopping and you get a new shirt and you wear that shirt out. You feel great about it. Hey, I'm putting on this new shirt. I'm going out. I'm going to go to this particular place and I'm got to make sure I wear that new shirt. And then you go there and people are like, oh, hey, I like that shirt. Hey, I like that shirt. You start feeling great about it. And then maybe the next time you're at the mall, you're like, hey, I'm going to, I'm going to make sure that I get another color because people really enjoyed that shirt, felt great on me. And I think that that's part of being a content creator, is that, you start to get connected to, some of those feelings in addition to being able to express yourself. It's like you're getting approval for just being you. And even if you're not passionate when you first start, I think that, it kind of sucks you in, so to speak, to where you actually become passionate about what it is that you're doing because of, those types of things.
That is interesting. It worked that other way of looking at it. That is really interesting. But do you ever have anyone who comes to you and says, I love the creative process, but I sort of hate what I'm making content about?
Sure, absolutely. And I think that also happens with creators who have been doing it for a long time, because, depending on the type of content that you make, there's stresses that are involved with it, because when you're first starting, your brain is exploding with ideas. You're like, oh man, I can make 1 million videos, all these different ideas that I have. But as you go through the process of making all those videos, you fade to, 2 years later. In that situation, it's like, okay, now this is starting to get hard. Now I have to not only make videos that I'm enjoying making, but I also have to make sure that I'm keeping in mind how the audience is responding to them. So then there's all of a sudden an intrusion on your creative process, because you're not just doing at that point in time exactly what it is that you want to do. In some cases, some people can pull that off, but for others, you're not necessarily doing exactly what it is that you want to do because people don't respond to it. So because of that, you have to do minor tweaks, which then impedes on your creative process, which then can kind of take away, some of that, passion and some of those feelings. And then after a period of time, your content is morphed into something that you might not have planned for, and you might not necessarily be happy with it. As soon as that passion leaves, then you start, your audience looks different to you. Your content looks different to you. When people reach out to you for things, it looks different to you. And before, or like when you hit that wall, that's where you have to, start making that decision in terms of how you're actually looking at everything, and making sure that you're actually appreciating the opportunity that you have, to be able to do what it is that you love.
That is a great and a very interesting take on that subject. So obviously now you've been around for a while, and obviously dealt with a ton of different creators. Just out of interest, like, what do you think are the biggest mistakes people who start on the platform make?
Not knowing what they want out of it, and not knowing who it is that they're making content for. I understand, like, as a content creator, sometimes people will just kind of dip their toes in, and they're like, hey, let me just upload some videos about stuff that I know, or things that I enjoy doing, or whatever it happens to be, and just kind of see how it goes. But I think that's the wrong approach, because just like with anything else, like if you approach it in a serious way, then the chances of you getting results are going to be much higher, instead of just kind of winging it and saying, okay, well, I'm just going to upload videos and I hope it works out, because, it's something that, I'm going to tell myself that I'm not taking seriously. Then in that situation, I think you're limiting yourself. And I think that you are doing that for the sake of fear of failure, in terms of, okay, it's hard to grow on YouTube, so I'm going to tell myself that I'm not going to take it seriously, so that if I fail, that it's okay because I'm not taking it seriously. But at the end of the day, if you're uploading content on a regular basis, if you like it or not, you're taking it seriously. So because of that, I think that you should approach it in a serious way, and you should know what it is that you're actually wanting out of the YouTube channel. But when you understand what it is that you want, then it helps you make sure that you are making the right decisions along the way. Even the collaborations that you take, the sponsorships that you take, the things that you promote as an affiliate, if you do that sort of thing, even down to the content that you make. And when you know what it is that you want to make, that also helps you define who it is that you're making it for. And when you know who it is that you're making the content for, and you know who it is that you, or you know what it is that you're trying to accomplish in that situation, then you can tweak everything in order to make sure that you're serving your goals and you're serving that particular audience, which makes for a perfect storm for YouTube success.
Super interesting. I mean, it's one of those things that everyone sort of has this sort of different reason to getting onto the platform. But you do see the common mistakes, and you're absolutely right. One of those things we always see is that you ask them, well, why are you doing this? And you're like, oh, yeah, we're going to get a big channel, get subs and views. I'm like, but why? And they're like,
right.
I don't know what else to say. Man, it's a really fascinating area. But once people get focused, like, everything happens so much faster for them.
You give a lot of people advice, like, your channel, your content is all about helping people on YouTube. But do you find that people then are asking the wrong questions a lot of the time? Like,
oh yeah, without question. How do I get subscribers? I mean, that's a it's a good question if you're getting started. But the more important thing, like, you should switch that around. Instead of thinking, how do I get more subscribers? You should be thinking, how can I add more value to the people that are watching my videos? Because if you change it to that way, then you're looking at yourself. Because when you're thinking, okay, how do I get more subscribers on the channel? a lot of times people are thinking, okay, where am I going to share my content to where people are going to subscribe to it? What word can I say in my videos in order to get people to subscribe to it? People are looking for that quick hit in order to fix it. But all you have to do is
that one word, but we can't. You don't
the
know
what?
the word? You don't know the word?
Oh, the word is Bartholomew. That's the word. Yeah. You add that, just add that to your videos and it works like a charm. You're just going to explode. You can just say it passively. Like as you're talking about Bartholomew or something else, it's just going to like come out. And then all of a sudden it's a mental trigger and people are just going to start subscribing like crazy. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a glitch in the AI in the robot.
I bet there's someone in the back end of YouTube who's like,
subscribers.
They've stumbled onto our secret. We're going to change the keyword.
Yep. That was it. That's all you need to know, everybody. Yep. Welcome to YouTube success.
Sorry. I derailed you. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I think that, that people are looking for those like low level things instead of turning it around and thinking, like I'm making content. Like people are like, I'm making content for an audience. Like a friend of mine said, they say, if you're doing everything it is that you want on YouTube, then if you're the only person that's watching that, then don't complain about it, because it's important that when you are uploading videos to YouTube, that you are thinking that you're making content for other people to enjoy and for other people to watch and to interact with and things like that. And because of that, you have to approach it in that manner and make sure that you're, doing the things in order to get them to respond. And at the core of that, it's adding some type of value to the people that are watching your content. So instead of thinking, how do I get more subscribers? Just think, how can I add more value to the people that are watching my videos? And the better you get at that, then the subscribers are just going to be a default thing that happens because you're adding value to the people that are watching your videos. When you're thinking, how do I get more views? Same thing. How do I add more value to the people that are watching my videos? I mean, of course, you got to make sure you're doing your titles and thumbnails and, all of that stuff. But, in terms of getting more views on your channel, if you're adding, tons of value to the people that are watching video A, then the likelihood of those people coming back and watching video B is going to be extremely high. So because of that, instead of thinking, how do I get views and subscribers, just think, how can I add more value to the people that are watching my videos? How can I make them laugh more? How can I make them learn more? How can I change the way that they think about things? How can I, inspire people through the content that I'm making? Things like that. And the better you get at all that, then the easier it's going to be to grow your channel.
On-screen presence is obviously is a big thing, or developing a personality is a huge thing. Do you ever give any like specific tips around that, or do you think is that some real winning tips? Like these are the like core things you can do to actually make it work?
Absolutely. So when it comes to actually presenting on camera, I always recommend to people, if possible, that you add just a tad bit more energy. I don't mean that you have to be, over the top, or that you have to be obnoxious, or that you have to be, one of those people where people click it and you're like screaming at the camera and that sort of thing, kind of like I do. But you should bring your energy level up just a tad more than you typically do, even if you're making content where you're just a chill person and you're just communicating naturally. Still bring it up just a tad, because the camera does take away some of your energy. Like how people say the camera adds 10 pounds, which is not true. It depends on the lens that you use. It can take off 10 pounds too. But if you are on camera, looking at the lens and continually looking at the lens also is a major thing, because if you're looking all over the place, then it's kind of like a lack of confidence, right? So if you are just, looking at the camera, occasional glances off and that sort of thing is fine. But if you're primarily just looking at the lens, not the viewfinder or anything like that, it makes it easier, because then you're directly communicating with the person that is watching your video, that person that's sitting on a sofa at home looking at their phone, that person that's sitting on a bus with headphones in watching your videos. Like, you're talking to that person directly when you are looking at the camera. In addition to that, and this one sounds kind of weird, but it's kind of like a process of finding your voice, but also experimenting with how you're actually sharing your content or how you're doing your content. So if you're the type of person that writes scripts, I recommend that you experiment with bullet points. If you're the type of person that does bullet points, I recommend that you experiment with scripts as well, because one might bring out a better presentation than the other. And I also recommend that, especially when you're first getting started, that you give yourself a break, because there is a process of finding your voice, so to speak, to where you hit that sweet spot, to where you can just turn on a camera and just go for it and do your thing, and it all feels great and it feels natural. And, it can take some time. So because of that, practice with different styles in terms of your communication, practice with different recording styles, because editing can make a huge difference in your presentation. So for example, some people will turn on a camera, and they'll try to just one take the entire thing. And over that process of one taking it, maybe they'll have to, start at the beginning a bunch of times, which will create frustration, which people will be able to see on camera. So because of that, you, instead of doing the one takes, you might want to try to record in clips. If you typically record in clips and you're getting used to that, maybe you want to try to one take it and see if you have a better presentation there, and then you edit it down that way. But, experimenting with all of those things to see what ends up working best for you, because it's not the same for everybody. So experimenting with those things to see what works best for you is definitely a win.
Nick, speaking of energy and presentation, you do these epic live streams that go for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. How the hell do you do that? Because that is just bringing it, man. And they're like full-on productions too. You're like, super chat. You've got a form where people are filling in questions. You're answering stuff. You've got multiple guests coming and going, and you just doing it. Like, do you one, how do you do that? And then do you sleep for 2 days after that?
I just love it. I love live streaming. I love doing stuff like this. It's just great. I actually get energy from this. Now, the funny part about those long live streams is our record live stream is about 7.5 hours, I believe. Oh, wow. And basically when my brother's in town, because currently, because of the situation that's going on in the world, he's actually trapped in Mexico. So he can't get out, or he can't come back to Thailand at the moment. So we're not doing our typical studio stream. But typically he'll actually control the camera, and then I'll just sit there and be the motor mouth for most of it. And then of course he talks as well. And we have a lot of banter back and forth, which makes it easier because you're just having a conversation for a long period of time. When I'm doing it solo and I go for, the 3 hours, 3.5 hours, for me, like I said, I get energy. So when I'm communicating on camera and I'm doing that whole thing, it actually brings me energy. And the only thing that makes me stop is I start losing that energy, because I'll stop at midnight or 1 a.m. local time. So if I were to start at, let's say noon, then I would probably, every single stream of mine would probably be somewhere between 6 and 8 hours, just because, I wouldn't lose steam as I went along.
It's very impressive. Everyone should check them out and just to see what I'm talking about.
I'm going to ask this last question. It is a question we ask often. Do you have 1, 2, or 3 of your best tips for people starting out on the platform? What would that be?
That question. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great default. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. So if you're starting out on the platform, if you're just getting started, you want to make sure that you go through the YouTube Creator Academy. It's put together by YouTube. And the reason you want to go through that is because it gives you, they don't go into strategy and, that kind of stuff, but it just gives you a general idea of how to approach the platform, best practices in terms of, simple things. When you're writing titles, make sure that you put the most important thing towards the front, little details like that you need to know as a content creator if you are, wanting to get any traction at all. 2, get your mind together. Instead of going on there and just thinking, hey, I'm going to wing it, like I talked about earlier in the show, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to go in here and just kind of see how it goes and maybe it'll work out, take it seriously. From the moment that you are planning to go onto YouTube, say, you know what, I'm going to see what I can do with this. I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to learn everything that I possibly can. I'm going to apply. This is huge. I'm going to apply the things that I actually, research and learn. And I'm going to give myself a year, maybe 2 years before I make any solid decisions on exactly, if this is something I'm going to continue to pursue or not. Because sometimes, you'll be grinding out for a while and nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, and this actually is a common thing on YouTube, all of a sudden YouTube finds the ideal group of people that would be a fantastic fit for your content. And then your channel just starts taking off out of nowhere. So dedicate to it and give yourself enough time. The next thing is to watch my videos and listen to podcasts like this and consume YouTube information, because every podcast that you listen to that talks about YouTube, every blog that you read that talks about YouTube, every video that you watch that talks about YouTube, every, audio book or book that you read, like Tube Ritual or YouTube Secrets as an example, like any of the stuff that you're listening to YouTube, as you're consuming all that information, things are going into your brain that you might not necessarily realize that you're picking up at that point in time, that you're going to realize that as you're consuming all of this stuff, all of a sudden you're going to be like, wow, I actually know a decent amount. I'm making really good choices here, because I know what it is that I should be doing when I'm faced with these particular situations.
Good advice. Nick, mate, thank you so much. As Nick said, check out his channel, check out nicknimmin.com. thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you'll join us again sometime soon.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate, I appreciate the conversation. Appreciate you guys and what it is that you guys do.
Thanks, mate.
You're too kind, Nick. Thank you.
I can insult you if you'd like. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
And on that note, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Nick.
Create a generation. Look on the mic.